official. Virginia has a new governor, Glenn Youngkin. And as education fast became the #1 issue in his gubernatorial race in November, so too is Youngkin making it the top priority of his new administration.
To parents, I say we respect you and we will empower you in the education of your children.
And as Virginia shifts away from focusing on critical race theory, guess what they will be focused on? Math, science, and reading. What a novel idea.
Yes, we will remove politics from the classroom. And we will focus on essential math, science, and reading. And we will teach all of our history, the good and the bad.
But it's not just what's being taught in the classroom that Governor Youngkin is making a top concern, but also the classroom itself, bringing it back to a physical and not just a virtual one.
And we know that when our children don't go to school, it harms their learning and their development. So let me be clear, we must keep our children in school 5 days a week.
Now, Governor Youngkin signed a series of executive orders on Saturday, the first pertaining to banning critical race theory, and the second putting an end to mask mandates, actually leaving the decision up to parents. Imagine that, which Arlington Public Schools would rather you didn't, as they tweeted their reaction from their official Twitter account. APS Virginia will maintain our current mask requirement for students, staff, and visitors. Masks required inside our facilities and on school buses. So what does Governor Youngkin have to say to that? Well, listen to this.
First of all, we wrote the order specifically to give all of the school systems basically 8 days to get ready, to listen to parents. And the fact that that tweet came out from Arlington County within minutes of my executive order, well, what that tells me is they haven't listened to parents yet. And if there's one thing that hopefully everybody heard in November is it is time to listen to parents. So over the course of this week, I hope they will listen to parents, because we will use every resource within the governor's authority to explore what we can do and will do in order to make sure that parents' rights are protected.
Joining us now with more on this, co-chair of the Project 21 National Advisory Board and host of the podcast Stacy on the Right, Stacy Washington. Stacy, the battle is already brewing in Virginia. You know they were waiting for all these executive orders, and now they're fighting back. Who's going to win?
Well, I think there's probably going to be some court cases, and there'll be some reorienting of the land where people in Virginia have been very used to running roughshod over parents and running roughshod over the will of their constituents, their voters. And that was proven in last year's election in November. A lot of people were ousted. They brought in a whole new party, a new government. And so they're going to have to take some time to get used to their new bosses. But I think Glenn Youngkin and Winsome Sears are perfectly equipped to manage this new, what can we call it so we can be nice, a kind of reticence on their part to listen to their new elected officials. And
how do you like how everyone's getting so upset, or everyone being the lamestream media and certain Democrats out there, that critical race theory is being banned? Because seem to remember that during the campaign, we were hearing that there was no critical race theory. There was no such thing.
Natalie, that's a figment of your imagination, and I'm not sure what you're talking about, because I was informed seriously, people told me seriously that CRT does not exist, and it's only taught in law school settings, and parents are just listening to right-wing talking points. And so my response is always, if it doesn't exist, then you don't have any problem with us banning it, because banning something that doesn't exist is an exercise in futility. But if that's what we want to do, just make it real quick and we can move on to the next thing.
It's so true. When you see the way that his administration is starting, that #1 was banning critical race theory, #2 is the mask mandates. It really was education that he ran and won on, and that's how he's starting to govern on. Do you think this is going to start being the pattern as we approach the midterms? Critical race theory is so huge, but also COVID with the shutdowns, schools actually shutting down and going back to virtual learning.
Yeah, so education is huge. It's the one issue that I think when we sit down about it, I can sit down with any one of my neighbors about it, and they can be dyed-in-the-wool Biden supporters. But when we're talking about education, we can find a lot to get together on. When I was elected to school board, it's a nonpartisan position here in the state of Missouri, and I always found that I had so much more in common with my neighbors and other members of the board, even though I was the only Republican on that board at the time. And they didn't even realize it until I was almost off of the board and doing radio and television. It took those kinds of activities for them to realize that I wasn't the same as them politically. And that's because when it comes to kids, the issues are really, they're not even partisan. They're not even political. They're parental, and they have a lot to do with how much we want these kids to be the future of our country, which is what they are. So I think we're going to see Glenn Youngkin do a lot. And he also has opened up one of the first executive orders there on the first day was to investigate Loudoun County and what happened with the 2 women who were raped. And the young man who was allowed to do these things, that school board lying about it, and the criminalization of the father who was trying to protect his daughter. There's a lot of work to be done, but they ran on this. I had Glenn Youngkin on my SiriusXM show, and he made promises, Winsome Sears as well. They made promises to millions of Americans and to the people of the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and they're not going to let it go. They're intent on making a real mark here.
Restoring patriotic education, that's what President Trump started talking about, really started that movement. And as people started realizing what was going on, this wasn't just happening in the college classroom. We'd all heard the stories about the way that the left is trying to brainwash there, but that this was going all the way down to even the kindergarten, pre-K level. And now we're talking about science, we're talking about math, actually getting back to the basics, because when you look at kids, they're falling or have fallen a grade behind, at least in the state of California, because of COVID. Do you think any Democrats are going to really come on board with actually getting our kids more educated? Because America shouldn't be where we are right now in the world. We're not in first place, not even close.
Not even close. I believe we're 49 in the international rankings when it comes to that international test score. So that's not where we should be. We are the leader. We're thought leaders. We're innovators. And we have the talent, the raw material talent of the best kids on the planet right here in this country. I don't think, Natalie, that the Democrats are going to pivot to education, even though it would be such a smart move right now because they don't have anything else to run on, because they've made such huge mistakes. It's the Democrats' teachers' unions that kept kids out of school. It's the Democrats who kept parents out of work. It's the Democrats who are locking people down and, according to polls, wouldn't mind taking your kids from you, literally removing your kids from your care just because you might not want to get vaccinated. So they've been on the wrong side of all of these issues, and they're not going to change.
They really have. They don't win with the parents. They don't win with the kids. They don't win with families, because these are America's kids you're talking about. This should not be political. Independents, Democrats, Republicans should be able to agree that kids, they don't belong to the state. But really, that's what these Democrat states and Democrat politicians want.
Yeah, they've said some pretty horrible things, like when McAuliffe was running in Virginia against Youngkin, and he said, parents don't have a say in what books are in their kids' school. Well, Natalie, I don't know about you, but we pay for the books, we pay for the teachers' salaries, the administrators, we pay to heat and cool the buildings, we pay to improve them, we pay through bond issues to expand them, our taxes pay for all of it, the kids belong to us, and I'm not sure what else there is there that we could not have an impact on. So they're really tone deaf on this. They always have been. They hate school choice. Anything that can help kids learn, Democrats seem to be against it. So, you know.
This is who they are. Stacey, real quick, tell us about your organization. 30 seconds here about the good work that you all do.
So Project 21, our leadership council, we advise the National Center for Public Policy Research, and we do media hits all over the country, just like we're doing right now on your program, Natalie, and thank you so much for this airtime. And we just spread the message of moderate to far right, like me, conservatism, from the Black American perspective, and we're so glad to be able to do that here on OAN.
Thank you so much. And we're going to put up the website so that our viewers can check it out and get involved with the good work that you all are doing. Thank you, Stacey. God bless you. And again, thanks for fighting for America's kids, because you realize that's what we should be. If we don't have freedom in that generation, we're going to lose our country, and we can't let that happen.
Thank you, Natalie.
God bless you. We'll look forward to hearing from you again soon.